Welcome back to the Cabbage Coins podcast. I'm very excited today to have Owen Seymour. Owen is a former professional grader, so we're going to be talking a lot about U.S. coin grading today. He's also the owner-operator of Seymour Rare Coins, so you might see him at the upcoming ANA World's Fair of Money coming up here in Oklahoma. I forgot to ask, are you going to that?
Yes, I'm going to that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so you will actually see Owen at that show. I met Owen over at the ANA grading seminar, so I just attended that at the last part of June. I've already talked about that in previous episodes. It was a fantastic opportunity for me. I took an advanced grading and problem coins seminar. Owen was teaching the beginner level or entry level grading seminar, and we had a chance to have a bunch of lunches together and catch up a little bit. And I thought this would be a fantastic episode for the podcast. So Owen, welcome to the podcast. Why don't you go ahead and just maybe tell us a little bit about like why you first got into coins, and if it was a childhood hobby of yours, did you pick it up later on? And how did you get into becoming a professional coin grader?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I got started off in coins. It was definitely a childhood hobby. I think my dad got me into it, like most of us. It started out with like the old school Blue Whitman album of, I think I had wheat cents and Jefferson nickels. And that was just filled with 3 and 5 cent coins from the local coin shop. And I kind of grew out of it. I think I collected from probably 3 years old to 10 or so. I aged out of it for a bit and got back into it when I was about 13.
Okay.
And when I got into it when I was 13, I was definitely looking at it from a business angle. I always wanted to be a business owner and was looking for avenues to explore that. And I really enjoyed coins. So I thought, well, it would certainly be great if I could participate in a business that I could do well in professionally and personally enjoy. So coins was one of my first thoughts. So I dove in head first, and somehow it paid off and worked out really well. So I started business at 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yep, and dealt for a couple years until I graded at PCGS. Obviously stopped dealing then, and then resumed dealing last year.
So at what point did you realize you had an eye for grading? So you just mentioned you worked at PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, I think is what it stands for, correct?
Yep.
So at what point kind of did you realize you had an eye for grading? What was the road like that led to working for a major grading company?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know if there was any moment in time where I was like, oh, I'm at, better than average at grading. It was kind of just something that happened.
Okay.
And as I was a coin dealer early on in my career, I didn't really go to many national shows. So I was kind of insulated from, the very top end of the hobby. I was doing like local shows and small coin shops in Pennsylvania. But I wouldn't say that there was any one point where I thought that I was, better than average.
Okay. Okay. Well, you are better.
Yeah,
than
no, I
average, for
realize
sure.
that now.
At this
for
point, you're
sure.
teaching courses on it, so
Yeah,
you're kind of the man.
And starting at PCGS, it was something I always wanted to do. Even when I was, 14 and first getting into the business, I thought, oh my God, how cool is that? There's people that like, not only in the coin industry, but you get to work alongside, some of the most talented people in the world every day and hang out and look at phenomenal coins all day. And I dismissed it as a dream.
Yeah.
But the more and more I became involved in business and continuing my career, it started to look more like a real possibility. You have to have a mentor in coins to advance your career and your knowledge base. And one of the most important mentors in my career was Steve Feltner. He's a PCGS grader now and has been, for a long time since I knew him in 2014. I met him. He was grading at PCGS then. And we got really close, and he taught me a lot about grading and the business. I owe a significant part of my career to him. So
this is a pretty serious job. I mean, for those that are unfamiliar, this is a pretty legit job within the industry. PCGS is a titan or a huge part of the industry, and to be able to be a professional grader there is you're really talking about the cream of the crop cream of the crop when it comes to being able to recognize and identify these the proper grades for the coins that PCGS is putting their name on and their reputation behind and having go out to the collectors into the market. But I actually want to kind of back things up just a little bit because for a lot of our viewers out there who may be new to collecting, so what exactly is coin grading and why does it matter?
So coin grading is how the hobby assigns a numerical value to a coin to indicate its condition. So coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. They may be precluded from having a numerical grade due to a severe problem like cleaning or damage or scratch or anything like that. What the industry calls a straight graded coin, which is a coin that's eligible for one of those 1 to 70 grades, is going to be problem free. And coin grading is important in the industry because it adds a layer of unbiased third-party opinion. So before certification existed, coins were transacted on the premises of, essentially a dealer's grade, and hopefully the buyer was educated and could kind of double check it. But that wasn't always the case, and of course still isn't today. So third-party grading really helps add a layer of liquidity and trust to a transaction because you have this unbiased third party that's kind of stepping in and saying, I'm about to pay, $3,000 for this coin because it's a 65. Well, it's one thing if a coin dealer says it's a 65 and it's their own coin, right? They have a stake in that coin being really high. I think it means something else if an unbiased third party can come in and validate that grade as well. It kind of helps enhance confidence, not only for the buyer, but for the seller, that you're not underselling your coin. It helps both parties have confidence in a transaction.
Yeah, and so we're referring to, when we say 65, we're referring to a mint state 65. The mint state grades start at MS 60 or mint state level 60, and they go all the way up to mint state level 70. Essentially, a perfect coin that comes directly off of the presses at the mint, assuming there's no imperfections at all with the planchet. I'm assuming that would go into an MS70. It's basically a virtually perfect coin, right? Is at the high end of the scale, right? I'm assuming.
Yep. 70 would be a perfect coin. It can't have any mint-made flaws, like you mentioned. It would have to be a perfect planchet. There would have to be no flaws visible to the naked eye. Maybe if you have a 40x loop and you might be able to find one. But so that might slide on a 70, but it should be a coin that's flawless to the naked eye, and even under light magnification, so it'd still be flawless.
Gotcha. So a little pro tip: if you're watching late night TV and you see some infomercials selling MS100 coins, saying that these are a lot better and like the real, there's no such thing as unfortunately as mint state 100. It only goes up to 70, folks. And so, from your opinion, what makes coin grading so challenging? I mean, there's only some people who do this professionally. There's a lot of dealers who probably maybe could do it professionally that choose instead to run a business dealing in coins. But it's not something that the average person just picks up. And to put this in perspective, like the A&A grading seminar, I've been to it 3 times. In each of those cases, I believe the seminar is 4 full days. And those days are, I don't know, roughly 6 to 8 hours. I can't remember what the total number of hours is in classroom. But if you add all that up, we're talking about a lot of hours, 60 some odd, 70 hours worth of instruction just to learn how to do this kind of properly, let alone, go on to become a professional at it. So from your perspective, what makes it so challenging to do grading? What kinds of things do even the experienced graders what kinds of things do experienced graders see that the average person, let's say, misses?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think there's 2 main things that make coin grading very challenging at a professional level. One is just, and I don't really know how to explain this, but some people I think just see coins differently than others. There's some people who you could attempt to teach grading to for a full 4-year class, and they might not comprehend it by the end of it, not professionally.
Yeah.
And there's other people who can pick it up really quick and exercise what they learn, very quickly. So there's some people who kind of have the trait and those who don't. And then on top of that, to become a fluent professional grader, you have to have such a vast pool of knowledge that you're constantly drawing from. You have to understand what the luster of an 1882 S. Morgan should look like versus what should a 1901 Morgan look like. Those are two coins that we'll cover here today.
Yep,
they're
yep.
going to have very different looks to them. You have to understand all this. So, just understanding all the information that you need to know to be a fluent professional grader is very challenging. I mean, it requires an impressive memory.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information for sure.
Yeah. So because you guys are experts and able to grade pretty much every series, right? Every series of U.S. coins, correct?
Yeah. I mean, at PCGS, there's certainly people who have their specialties, right? I worked with people who were maybe very good at early American copper, colonials, but that doesn't mean that I didn't grade those coins. You have to grade everything before you at PCGS. It's not like if there's an order of early American coins that it goes to some specialist. Everybody has to be a specialist.
Yeah. So to say a little more about that, I guess where I was leaning, or I was trying to explain a little bit, would be that there's a lot of different denominations, and within those denominations, there's all sorts of different years, as well as different types and varieties, of those of all those types. And some series, some particular years, like Owen just mentioned, the 1882S is a classic example where these coins all typically have a lot of booming luster and shine to the coin. So they are, the coins, we use a vernacular, like they come a certain way, like they usually come really lustery and bright and so forth. So having that knowledge about what to expect in a particular coin, in a particular date, in a particular of a series when it comes to in front of you, is this incredible, vast, like, library of knowledge that these guys have acquired, not just on one series, but a lot of different American series. Gives you guys a perspective about how talented a lot of these folks are, that do this and that do this, professionally. So, So before we get into looking at some of the examples, which I'm excited about, I think we have a total of 5 side-by-side comparisons to do. I want to ask you the question, which is a lot of people think about coin grading. You always think about the guy. My loop's back behind me. I'm not going to grab it, but the guy that's looking through the loop, looking at the coin. That everyone's that's kind of what you think about. How important, from your perspective, is lighting, magnification, and even just like the mindset that you're bringing to the coin when you grade?
Yeah, lighting is certainly important. You should be in a room with just one light source, right? You shouldn't have a bunch of open windows with a bunch of sunlight shining through. That is not a good way to view coins. You should have a single light source. I grade with an incandescent light bulb. I think it's a 75 watt incandescent bulb.
Okay.
And I keep the lamp, like, you want to have the lamp too close to your head. If the lamp is far away, or you think the lamp might be far away, it's too far away. It should be closer to you than you think it should be.
Interesting. Okay.
I think when I would grade at PCGS, I would have my lamp just a matter of inches away from my head. So lighting is definitely important. And it's important to look at the coins the way that the professional is going to look at them. You want to have a consistent viewing process from your own to the professional graders, because if you're sending coins in for grading, you want to see them like the graders are going to see them. And graders grade with single source lighting, incandescent bulbs, 75 watt or 100 watts. I think most graders use. Magnification is also important. I think every year at summer seminar, I instruct one of the grading courses there, and I think 5 times a day, every day, I have to tell people to put down their loops. And Kyle, my co-instructor, and I are always telling people, if you're using a 10x loop and you're grading every coin through a loop, the marks are 10x larger than they actually are. So it's one thing if you need magnification to see, right? If you don't have great up close vision and you need to use light magnification just to get a better look at a coin, fine. That's, do what you need to do. But if your vision is adequate enough that you can comfortably grade without a loop, you really should not be using a loop unless you see something that you feel like you need to investigate.
Yeah.
So if I'm grading, even a small coin like a seeded quarter, if I don't see anything in it that I feel like needs to be looped, I don't loop it. Now, if I'm looking at it and I flip over the reverse and, hey, there's like an interesting looking scratch over here. I'm not sure. Is that graffiti? Is that tooling? That's when you take out a loop to investigate a problem or to authenticate a coin.
Yeah.
But coins are collected and transacted and enjoyed at, an arm's length, and that's how they should be graded as well.
Yeah, and you just mentioned something that I wanted to touch on real briefly, and that is about authentication. These services, such as PCGS, they do coin grading to assess what the numerical grade of the coin should be, but they also do authentication because there's a lot of coins where the value of the coin is immensely more. I mean, incredibly more if the coin has an S, San Francisco mint mark on it, or it's without any mint mark, or there's a variety of things that make cause a particular coin to be a little bit worth a whole lot more. So fakes exist, and they're in the marketplace, and coins are sent to these guys in order to have the final say or the authoritative word on whether this coin is authentic or not. And something that Owen mentioned really early, he mentioned about problem-free coins. And I just want to mention real briefly what we mean by that. So there are some cases that make a coin ungradable from a numerical perspective. One example will just pop off the top of my head would be a coin that's been very harshly scrubbed and cleaned, where a lot of the detail has been taken down and the coin is no longer really gradable. It's so far from what it was when it was created. That coin has like altered surfaces and is not gradable. A coin that is bent, a coin that has a hole in it, a coin that has, some kind of repair job or something that's happened to the coin. These are things that are we call quote unquote problems that prevent a coin from being able to be assessed on this 70-point numerical scale. What are the other ones I might have missed there that would make a coin just simply not gradable?
I mean, there's a lot of issues, right? There's all forms of damage, which can cover a lot of things. That could be a hole in the coin, which is, a literal piece of missing metal. There could be a filled hole, which the industry calls plugged. There's tooling, engraving, smooth surfaces, artificial toning. I think at PCGS, we had 20 or 30 more different problems that we could call a coin, and then there was often subsets of each of those. So there was many dozen different no grades that you could apply to coins.
Cool. All right. Without any further ado, let's pop into our examples here. Okay, so this is the first coin that we have for discussing a little bit about the specifics. We got a little bit of a comparison of Morgan dollars here. What we have is a 1901 Morgan dollar in mint state 62. This is a particular year that I know the Philadelphia 1901 dollar in mint state is a very valuable, difficult, rare coin to find. So, so tell us a little bit about how we'd approach this. And this is an MS62 grade. Go for it.
Yeah, so just to preface it, I selected, I think we have 10 comparisons, or 5 comparisons, right? 5 sets of
10 coins. 10, yep.
And I selected those with the intent to demonstrate. I think a lot of people who are beginning to collect and even deal, they fail to understand the components of, what attributes are appropriate for each grade. And I think a lot of people severely overestimate how much outright surface preservation, meaning abrasions or lack thereof, contribute to a coin's grade. So with this coin here, this 1901 Morgan dollar, I think that a lot of people look at this coin and say, well, it's not really that abraded, and it's definitely uncirculated. I don't see any signs of wear. And I think a lot of people would be quick to call this coin, a 63 or a 64 or perhaps even higher.
Yeah, the cheek is pretty nice.
I think that's making a grave mistake in weighting that. In weighting abrasions too much. So when you look at this coin, it's definitely clean, right? I mean, it has that positive attribute. There's no giant reed marks or anything, but it has a lot of negative attributes as well.
Okay.
The luster is just kind of subdued. It doesn't really have a whole lot of life. It's kind of poorly struck at the peripheries here, like where your cursor is going. We can see a lot of weakness at the lettering. I mean, some of those stars are almost gone. So it's for a 1901 Philadelphia Morgan, this is a superb example, but it doesn't make the cut for a higher grade like 64 or 65. It's just too tired and dull looking.
Yeah. This is a coin that on the surface immediately, I would think, or I should say on the surface, what I mean is kind of immediately, my first gut reaction would be more in a 64 range. Because again, I mean, the luster is certainly, I don't know, but it's a lack of abrasions. I think of just like you said, I mean, when I first approached this, I would just think about counting up the number of marks that I see. And if there's too many marks, then it's got to be lower. If it's less marks, then it could maybe be a 65. It's got a fairly clean cheek, but at the same time, I mean, the lack of life in this coin, like you mentioned, So this is what keeps this thing all the way down at 62, huh? It doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't qualify for like even a 63.
I mean, if you told me this coin is a 63, I would believe you.
Okay.
But I definitely can't see any higher than that because of how the luster is dull. I
Gotcha.
want to emphasize again, I don't think that this is a bad coin. This is a
Yeah,
wonderful
yeah.
1901 Morgan. This date saw an extremely high rate of attrition. These were not saved in some massive quantity and tucked away in bank vaults like a lot of other dates and Morgans. These things were
Yeah.
workhorses of commerce. So to
Okay.
have one like this that is truly uncirculated with decent luster is a really great example of the date. But with that said, there's still a lot of room to be better than this.
Yeah. So remember from our previous podcast, folks, that we talked about the history of the Morgan dollar and that a lot of them were minted and then immediately went into treasury vaults in the thousands, and they sat in treasury vaults for many years. A number of different issues had that occur. Some issues, though, went into the population, went into the economy to circulate. And the 1901 Philadelphia, I believe, was one of those that went into circulation. And because of that, it's so hard to find any mint state examples. They all got changed around and banged around in commerce and people's pockets and so forth. So when you find mint state examples, they're pretty rare. So we compare that then to, now this is an example of a coin that I think almost a lot of these just sat in treasury vaults, right? So they were made
1882s
almost perfectly.
were saved in great quantity and were in the treasury hoards extensively.
Yeah. Now this is a MS65.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think this is a good comparison to the previous coin, because even on this coin, we do see abrasions there on the cheek.
Mm-hmm.
At the high points, you can see that there is some action going on. This is not a flawless coin. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, unlike the other coin, a lot of people might be quick to undergrade this coin. They might see the abrasions on the cheek and say, oh, people think MS65s have perfect cheeks. It's got to be a 63 or a 64. Look at everything else about this coin. To say that it's beat up, it's a 4 is ridiculous. The luster is just preposterously nice. The stripe is immaculate. Frosty devices, smooth fields. This is like everything you want in a Morgan. So, and if we could compare it, would you mind sliding back to the prior coin? Look at the luster of this.
Sure.
And I wouldn't say the 82S is all that much more abraded. This coin is definitely more abraded than the 82S, but not terribly so.
Yeah.
So looking at the luster there, I mean, it's just two totally different coins.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is an example where luster makes a really meaningful contribution to the numerical grade value of this coin.
Yeah, and Owen just used the term frostiness to describe the devices. So a little definition thing for you guys real quick. The devices are going to be basically Miss Liberty here. The raised portion that's in the center of the coin that is the focal, I don't know what you want to call it, the design features of the coin that are raised up. This is what's referred to as the devices. The elements here that are in front of the Miss Liberty's face as well as back, kind of the flat area, is what's known as the fields. So the frosty devices are this kind of, kind of what it sounds like. If I zoom in here, there's a certain level of, like snowy, ice creamy kind of frosty, whatever that's on the surface of this face. And that's, it's a term that you'll hear quite a bit in terms of, frost. Luster is really difficult to describe using just a picture, but you can see a huge difference between this coin and the dullness. Okay, it's obvious that there's a lot of dullness here compared to this coin, which, you can't even hide the light that's being reflected by the fact that it's only two-dimensional. You have light beams that you can see here that are kind of making a cross. This coin would twirl when you would spin it in light, and we call that a cartwheel or a luster or a luster that's kind of twirling around the coin. I don't know. Is there a better definition of luster aside from like how light kind of reflects off the surface?
I think you described it well. Like you mentioned, it's hard to exactly interpret and understand the luster from an image, right? It's more important to see a video, or especially the coin in hand is best. But looking at this coin, those areas that are brighter in the left obverse field and right obverse field, if you were to turn this coin in hand, those things would travel across this coin like the spokes of a wheel.
Perfect.
And it would have a really beautiful, striking appearance in hand.
Yeah.
This is the kind of coin, if you were walking by a dealer's showcase, I don't know that 1901 would stand out on a quick walk by. Whereas if the 82S was in a showcase and you walk by it, I mean, this coin's going to stand out. You're going to see that thing from 10 feet away dazzling in a showcase. This is a really beautiful coin, and a lot of that is because of how pleasant the luster is.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just mention this, throw this out there, just for the sake of completeness, because we're just talking about these coins on a technical. We're talking about these coins through the perspective or through the lens about coin grading and a point about the appearance of the coin and so forth. That's not to say that this coin, this 1901 Philadelphia, is in some way kind of not as important or as valuable or whatever as this coin. The 1882S is an extremely common coin, so while I might walk by display cases of coins and this coin might jump out at me in terms of the luster of it, from a coin dealing and value perspective, seeing a 1901 mint state coin is going to be, my alarm bells are going to be going off that this is an important coin from a collecting perspective to have. So just realize that we are discussing these coins today only really in terms of these characteristics and quality that determine numerical grades and how the philosophy behind coin grading. So
yeah, just to drive your point home, this 1901 here is worth many multiples more than the 1882S and 65, despite being a lower grade.
Yeah, I think
I can't recall the value off the top of my head. I would think about $2,000.
Oh, PCGS grading. The price guide of this is $8,000.
8,000. Wow. Okay. Yeah, right. That makes sense. I think I'm thinking of 60. I think even at 60, they're worth that much.
Yeah, and at 60, they're worth about 2,000.
Wow.
I kind of recall
that's
that.
impressive.
Yeah.
So
now this coin though,
65 is probably $160 coin.
Yeah, so. basically. I think $200 on a good day is what you would expect to pay for one of these. There's thousands and thousands of these ones, folks, and not many of these at all. So let's jump over to this. This is there was a series where there was a video recently where every time I saw Washington Court, I kept calling them Buffalo Nickels. I don't know what was going on in my head, but I'm not. It's probably one of my least favorite series. That doesn't matter here, but I just set the stage. I think also part of it comes from the fact that I find these extremely difficult to grade. It's nickel. It's not silver. It has different qualities and striking, qualities. So, yeah, this is a 1934 Denver Buffalo nickel in MS62.
Mm-hmm. So I showed this example to emphasize, this is a coin with a very poor strike. There's a lot of missing detail. It's really not much detail at all. I mean, the hair is largely flat with just separation at the most significant design elements.
Yeah.
It's not terribly abraded. I see there's some stuff on the cheek below the eye there. I think a lot of that is unstruck planchet. So that is when a planchet is formed. The surfaces of a planchet is very rough. And when they strike that coin, if the planchet fails to meet the void of the die completely, it will leave behind some of that roughness. And that's very easy to perceive that as abrasions. And unstruck planchet is not a good thing. It does affect the grade, but not severely, as abrasions would.
Yeah.
So this is a coin that, again, it's pretty good in the abrasion department, but it lacks kind of everywhere else. The luster is okay. It's so-so. The strike is very poor. It's kind of got these spots going on throughout it that do not help with eye appeal.
Yeah.
So this isn't a terrible coin. I think it's definitely a decent uncirculated example of this date and mint mark, but it's just not spectacular. It's not a gem quality coin.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, from an eye appeal perspective, immediately I don't like it. The like you said, the strike. So what we're talking about is when the dies struck the planchet. So the planchet is going to be the rough raw metal disc essentially that's put into the press that are struck by dies to create the coin. That is referred to as the planchet. As Owen mentioned, they start off to have a fairly kind of rough finish or surface. They're not flat and shiny and so forth. At least on business strikes. And so when the metal does not completely fill up the die, as Owen mentioned, you still have this roughness there, and you can mistake that. This is one of the common misperceptions, I guess, for beginners or whatever, is that you can mistake this as being dings or hits or whatever, and this is instead just raw planchet that wasn't struck. But in general, I mean, like as Owen mentioned, there's just a lot of weakness, or I guess incompleteness of the strike on the coin when it was made. So the eye appeal is, in my opinion, just really bad. So compare this one to this guy. Immediately I love the eye appeal of this coin a whole lot more. This is the same coin, the same series, 1934 Denver Buffalo nickel, but this one is in mid-state 66.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this coin still doesn't have a spectacular strike. If you were to look at like a date like a 1938D Buffalo nickel, they're usually going to come really well struck.
Okay.
The best struck 34D nickel probably still isn't as good as a poorly struck 38D. So
Okay.
these are the kind of things you have to know as a professional grader, right? You have to understand how to interpret these coins. So as far as 34Ds go, this strike here is immaculate. We can definitely see some unstruck planchet at the top of the hair there, or just above the braid rather, kind of in the center of the coin. You can see this little roughness going on. Those are not abrasions, it's just unstruck planchet.
Okay.
This coin has a lot of good traits, right? It has outstanding luster, kind of some nice, attractive, golden kind of purple color throughout. This is what you want to see on a 34D nickel.
Would this also be unstruck planchet through here?
That's definitely that's what I was talking about earlier. That's
okay.
Unstruck planchet. That's a really good example of an unstruck planchet.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a grade detracting feature, but I think on this coin, if that didn't have that, I don't think that it would be a 67. If it had a bunch more of it, maybe it would be 65. But on this coin, I'm kind of just neutral with that unstruck planchet. A nice 1934D nickel is just going to have some unstruck planchet there.
Got it. Yeah, and so I wonder it had something to do with like the way that the dies were set at Denver, that year with these coins.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to just production quality at the mints. I think that, I don't know if it's a matter of making too many coins too quickly. Or your coining presses weren't set to an appropriate strength and it wasn't delivering a strong enough blow to strike out the coin. But there's significant variance from year to year in manufacture of U.S. coins. And you have to understand all of this to be a fluent professional grader.
Sure. It's not unlike automobiles. I mean, we go to automobile sites that tell us a little bit about the history of various, whatever the manufacturer is. And there's a particular year, 2008. Don't buy one of these. They had problems with this. They had problems with that, et cetera, et cetera. And probably a lot of that had to do with the quality of the manufacturing that year and the standards and the staff and the maybe some of the tools that they used or some of the equipment that they used, the parts that they used to build the vehicles that year. It's kind of similar. Anything that's manufactured is going to have those kind of variances from one year to the next. And so these things are what Owen and other professional graders, they have to kind of know all this for the various years. So, the typical 1934 might look like this because of the poor striking qualities or habits at that time. Better ones, look like this. Now, is there a particular level where in order to achieve, let's say, a 67 or a 68, it absolutely has to not have this, let's say, this exposed planchet?
That's a great question. I think with enough magnification, you could probably find some evidence of unstruck planchet on any business strike Buffalo nickel.
Okay.
With that said, with this quantity, I would say that unstruck planchet and it's a bit of a soft strike. You can see Liberty there is kind of bleeding into the field a little bit. It's just not raised up that well. I think if this coin was perfectly struck and had less unstruck planchet, that this coin could easily qualify for a 67. So I would say that for this coin, that is the main grade restricting factor is the strike and unstruck planchet. I don't see any abrasions on this coin that make me think, that could never, be a 67. The luster is certainly adequate. It's phenomenal luster. So
that's great.
I think for a 67, it's hard to quantify this. I wouldn't never say it has to have half this much. It's hard to quantify.
Yeah.
But definitely significantly less than this coin for a 67.
All right. I want to jump into everybody's one of the most favorite collected coins of all time. We have the 1909 S VDB wheat cent, Lincoln cent. So this one is again the grade of MS62 brown. I can say right off the bat, I do not like the eye appeal of this coin. I've handled a number of 1909 SVDBs in my inventory over the years, and this one has really poor eye appeal. But I don't want to steal your thunder. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about why this coin is what it is.
Yeah, so I selected this example. I think it's kind of a textbook example of a low-end uncirculated coin. So we don't see any signs of wear. For wear on Lincoln Sense, to see the early signs of wear, you want to look at the high points of the hair and beard on the obverse. Kind of the highest point of his shoulder there in the center of the lower portion of the bust. And I'm not seeing any change in color there. So that tells me that this coin is uncirculated.
Okay.
And it has some abrasions. Like, we're really zoomed in. It's got a little nick on the forehead there. There's a little line coming down from the nose. But these really, I think with naked eye, you wouldn't even see those.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's terribly abraded, but it's kind of lacking in every other department.
Yeah.
The luster is just not amazing.
What luster?
It looks a little bit chalky, and it shouldn't.
Yeah,
It has a planchet issue going on above In God We Trust. Like, the planchet wasn't
right up top here.
Totally formed there.
Yeah.
That's not severe enough that you would no grade it. Now, if that was like loose, like it looked like you could kind of knock pieces of metal off, that'd be a bigger problem.
Yeah, okay.
So I wouldn't no grade the coin for that, but it's definitely not helping me arrive at a higher number.
Yeah.
So this is a coin that's definitely uncirculated. It has no evidence of wear, but you got to keep it on the lower end of the grading scale because it's lacking in a lot of other departments.
Yeah. Sorry, Victor David Brewer, whatever his name was, but this one was not made very well.
This was not made the standard, not preserved the standards at least.
Yeah. Huh. All right, so we compared that one now to this guy, and immediately everyone, should be able to tell the difference between those two coins. This one is graded MS66 brown, has got interesting, nice color to it. So what else? What are the main differences here between these two?
Yeah, these two coins here are night and day difference. If we look at the luster of this coin, it's way above the other coin. Just the brightness here is so much significantly better than the previous coin, and that's going to really help carry the grade. It's kind of got this like attractive purplish, reddish, original skin going on. No mentionable abrasions. There's a few trivial spots if we zoom in enough, but from this angle, you can barely notice any spots. This is just a fantastic coin. This is what you want to see for, a piece of uncirculated copper. You want it to look like this. This is just wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know if pretty much all of these go into circulation?
1909 SVDBs were actually saved to some meaningful extent.
Oh, okay.
Because they were first-year coins, that kind of often led to coins being saved even in roll quantity. I've personally heard of dealers who have bought full uncirculated rolls of these.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and if you check the PCGS populations for uncirculated coins, it's a lot higher than you would think it would be. So these were definitely saved. A lot of them were circulated as well. So it's kind of like in between. We were talking about the 1901 Morgans earlier. Those were not saved. And the 82Ss were saved in massive quantity. Something like a 1909 SVDB would kind of lie in between those two things, where they did absolutely serve a role in commerce, but they were also saved in a meaningful quantity as well.
Yeah. So just as a little aside, why is the 1909 SVDB so interesting and so popular? On the reverse of this coin, and I'll probably bring up an image to kind of just flash on the screen at this point so you guys can see more closely. But on the reverse of this coin, you'll see three letters, VDB. And this VDB stands for Victor David Brenner. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Victor David Brenner. And he was the designer of this coin. And kind of a tradition goes back with coin designs where the designer of the coin maybe puts a little bit of in the case of like Christian Gobrick with the Gobrick dollar, he wrote C. Gobrick like on the actual coin. But other designers might put an initial or something that says this was something that they designed. They kind of put a little signature on, like any kind of an artist. Well, his initial design had his whole name, Victor David Brenner, on it. There was a huge kind of backlash about that. I think even at the mint, they decided, no, we're not going to go that, you need to reduce this down to just VDB. They allowed him to put that on. But then the public had a real issue with the VDB being on the coin, and they changed this out. They swapped out the dies, and they started moving forward without the VDB on them. So the Philadelphia 1909 VDB is also, I don't know, it's a bit of a scarce coin. It's a difficult coin to find super nice, but it's totally obtainable. The San Francisco version of the same coin is a lot more difficult to find, and therefore there's a lot of value to them. And everybody who has collected Lincoln cents, wheat cents, knows that this is usually where the hole in their album exists, because that is the rare one to find, is the 1909S. And this is also a great example of what Owen and the other guys at PCGS would do in terms of authentication, because this little S right here may very well be faked in some capacity. Everything from soldering on an S to make it look like it's original, to inserting it kind of through the side and creating a fake kind of like pushing up an S from inside the coin, I've heard of. Whatever, just in order to be able to sell it as a 1909S and make a few $100 or whatever. So, or in some cases, $1,000 or whatever. Yeah, it's just keep. This is one of the reasons why grading is important today, and why it's been embraced by so many different collectors, is it gives everybody that peace of mind about authentication, but also some authority about what exactly is the grade here, so that we can kind of trade these and be a lot more confident. So anything you want to add to that, or move on to the next one?
Yeah, I mean, I just like to point out, I think that coin grading, I think that the numerical aspect of it, actually assessing the condition, gets a lot of the spotlight when it comes to being a professional grader. But you can't do that without having a superb foundation of authenticating coins. So just to give the viewers a little insight into that, would you mind zooming in on the mint mark again for me, like you did earlier?
Sure.
So just for 1909 SVDBs, I and every other professional grader, you kind of have to know there's 4 different mint mark positions on SVDBs. I think this is the highest and most leftward position. So you have to know all these things.
Okay.
There's one single mint mark stamp for 1909 SVDBs, so you get these really nice parallel serifs. And one of the best die indicators for 1909 SVDB, at the top loop of the mint mark there, you can see a little die chip sitting almost on the crossbar of the S of the mint mark. So in that top void in the recess area.
You mean right here?
Yes, exactly that.
Oh,
so
okay.
all genuine 1909 SVDBs have a die chip in the mint mark there, every single one of them. Now, maybe sometimes you won't be able to see it. If you have a coin in good, it might be so circulated and have so much gunk in there that you can't identify it. But if you have a 1909 SVDB, it should be very easy to spot that die chip. So just having little tiny pieces of information like that about every coin in U.S. coins, those things add up to having a really good ability to authenticate coins. And there's a bunch of different tricks for 1909 SVDBs, along with the mint mark. There's different reverse dies for 1909 cents. There's type 1 and type 2. VDB can be formed in different ways.
Okay.
And there's forms that are unique to 1909 cents. So there's a lot of different ways to authenticate a 1909 SVDB.
That's awesome. I love that stuff. I didn't know that about the die chip at all. So what we're referring to is this the die that had this S on it. There's a little chip just kind of in the metal. So when it was struck, you can see that as the metal flowed into that recess created by that chip, you got this tiny little thing. I'm just kind of be real more careful with here with my mouse. So just right around there, I'm kind of just going on the bottom side of it. That die chip exists in every authentic one. So if you ever find one that doesn't have that, then you're pretty much guaranteed you're looking at a fake, right?
Yeah, it's fake. Be fake.
Yeah, 100%. And these diagnostics are super important for other things like 1893S Morgan dollars, which is super rare and valuable and so forth. There is diagnostics on that coin you can look at, and you can know 100% of the time that this is a real coin or it's a fake coin by having that diagnostic, and that doesn't exist in fakes, where they were trying to trying to mimic the coin overall and fool people that are looking at it very quickly. So awesome. So let's get into gold. Now, I love gold. I love gold. But we got 1908 S, San Francisco again, 1908 $10, the MS-65. So we're talking about a pretty pricey coin right here. So go for it.
This is a really, this is a very nice looking coin.
Yeah.
It certainly looks gem. I kind of forget the grade of this. I'm thinking 65.
This is MS-65.
Right. So it looks 65 or maybe even 66 from here. It's really well struck. No large marks or anything, no reed marks or anything. A really beautiful, pleasant looking coin here. It has some light spots in the headdress. Those don't really bother me. Uh, so definitely a nice coin here. I really like this one.
Well, yeah, I love this coin. I mean, I would expect this to be higher graded, frankly, me personally. I'm not an expert, but do
Well,
these
I
normally
wanted to
come
include
nice?
here. What was
Yeah.
that?
Do these normally come nice? Is that part of
Yeah,
the
08S10s come very nice. They usually come with a
Okay.
really nice, silky, pleasant look. Not always, but they do come
Yeah.
better than other dates.
Yeah.
But kind of the example, we've been talking about lower end uncirculated coins and then kind of middle end or higher. For these two coins, I selected one that was, a nice one, and then our next example is kind of like a face
Yeah.
melter of a coin.
Yeah. My face is
I've seen
melting.
this coin in hand actually.
Okay.
This is like, and this coin is like burnt into my memory as one of my favorite U.S. coins I've ever handled.
Sure. So
This coin is
this is an MS 68 plus. Okay, so 70 is perfect. 69 is basically perfect, almost perfect. This is an MS 68 plus. We haven't mentioned yet about plus grades. Do you just want to mention real quickly what is a plus grade? What MS 68 plus or an MS 64 plus or whatever?
Yeah, so a plus grade kind of just acknowledges that a coin is very high for its numerical grade. So I think 68 plus in this context means that it's very close to a 69, but maybe the graders saw some technical shortcomings,
Okay.
and they think it's better than an average 68, but just a little bit short of 69. So this is kind of saying that this coin is not only a 68, which is amazing of it in itself, but for that grade, it's kind of cream of the crop.
Yeah.
But I held this coin in hand, and this coin is absolutely amazing. Just insanely nice luster, perfectly rounded apple cheek. The coin almost looks like it's made of felt or satin. Just an absolutely incredible example of a U.S.
Wow.
coin. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite U.S. gold coins that exist.
Yeah. So this one, folks, you can either buy yourself a moderately priced condominium or you can buy this coin.
I think I'd take this coin. I think I'd live under an underpass and own this coin and still be happy.
You just got to keep your eyes on. You got to be careful sleeping with,
Right.
especially if word gets out that you got it. But that's, yeah, you can tell folks that, we love coins. We get into this stuff. And, yeah, there's some collection out there that this thing sits in and it's probably, helps their PCGS registry set kind of go sky high. And, we can mention real briefly what that is. I mean, I don't want to derail us too much at all, but the PCGS registry set is I should do a video with somebody who really is into registry set collecting and building them. But PCGS has kind of a whole catalog of different collectors who put together sets, and they call them registry sets. So you basically compete against other collectors in terms of what quality and what numerical grade your collection has for various components of the collection. So somebody, wanted this and probably paid a very pretty dollar for an MS68 plus example of a 1908S $10 Indian to put into their set, and it gives them crazy number of points and just allows them to beat out the next collection.
Yep.
Basically is what that's all about. So, okay, our last example we have, this is a commemorative. So the United States made commemorative half dollars for, I don't know, whatever it was, 30 years or something. Maybe longer than that, 40 years. But anyways, in 1925, this is a California commemorative, and we have the 49er here panning for gold. This example is again the MS62 grade. This is about a $200 coin, roughly, give or take. So eye appeal is horrible. So what can you tell us about this guy?
I think you started us off well. It's definitely lacking in the eye appeal department.
Yeah.
It's kind of got these like rust-colored spots throughout it.
Yeah.
That's definitely an environmental issue. They're not so severe that it warrants a no grade, so I wouldn't call this coin environmentally damaged.
Yeah.
But it definitely has some light signs of that. I don't think that stuff's like necessarily burnt into the metal or eating away at the coin, so that's why I'm fine with grading it, but it's definitely not going to help me arrive at a very high grade. The fields just look, I don't know, dirty, and not in a good way. I like when a coin has a nice attractive crust. This is like a crust that's not good.
Yeah.
This is almost like a residue thing. It looks like it has some light hairlines on it. I don't think that the coin's been scrubbed or cleaned necessarily, but it's certainly been mishandled. So it's an uncirculated coin. We don't see any evidence of wear. There's no dulling here. It has luster throughout.
Yeah.
but this is a kind of a textbook example of a low-end commemorative.
Yeah, when I used to work out on a ranch out in Wyoming, we used to talk about some horses that were rode hard and put away wet. And, like, and so as it sounds, I mean, you ride kind of the heck out of the horse, get them all dirty and grimy and wet, and then you don't dry them off or clean them off and so forth. And you just kind of put them back in the barn. Does not do very well for the horse long term, or at all. But anyways, yeah, that's when I would describe this guy. I mean, I don't know how it picks up. When we say environmental damage, we're basically talking about interactions with the environment in a negative way. So rust and things that, from being exposed in some way or being stuck in the ground. So many cents, copper cents, like have environmental damage of being in dirt for years or something like that, where, the coin kind of shows signs of being like the metal is being eaten away by its interactions with the environment. So would you think? I mean, this coin maybe had some more of this kind of rust, and maybe it was kind of cleaned away at something. What do
Yeah,
you
I think it was probably lightly wiped at one point. Again, not so much so that you would note grade the coin.
Okay.
To call the coin clean, you want to see like real legitimate evidence that it was intentionally scrubbed at to make it
Sure.
look a lot different.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think anybody ever scrubbed this coin with the intent to to deceive someone and make it appear much better than it ever was. I think maybe at one point it was in a collection and someone, brushed some of this residue off it with a cloth or something and imparted a few trivial hairlines.
Yeah.
So not something that we're going to say the coin's worthless, it's ruined, but you have to compute that into your grade.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we compare that guy to this one. Huge
and this
difference.
is a really big step up from the prior coin.
Big time.
So the luster here is just spectacular. California commemoratives kind of have this really complex texture to the fields. They're not like smooth like a Morgan dollar might be. The elevation kind of changes in the fields, and in high grade it really emphasizes that, and they look spectacular. So still some trivial abrasions up above the back there between the RT of Liberty and the back. But overall, this is a really superb coin. A tremendous luster, well struck, well made, very well preserved. This is a really pretty example of a California commem.
So what am I seeing in terms of I don't want to call them lines. I know the answer is I'm just kind of setting you up a little bit, but so you have like almost appears like almost striations sort of through here. So what is that for folks that might look at this and initially think, oh, this coin has been maybe cleaned in some way? That's not cleaning.
Right. Yeah. Some people, I agree that some people might look at this coin and say, well, there's hairline that's cleaned. I can tell that those are what we call die polish lines.
Okay.
So as mint employees are coining these, they occasionally have to clean the die, and they do that with some kind of abrasive material like a cloth or a rag or a brush, even a metal brush. This is especially where you might see these. And as they clean the die, so again, we're not cleaning the coin, we're cleaning the die.
Yeah. Yep.
It'll impart these lines onto the die. And subsequently, as that die, which now has lines, strikes later coins, each coin that is struck will have these things which look like hairlines but are not. The coin was born with those. As soon as it came out of the press, it had those.
Yeah.
You can
There's
see
a great
some
patch of them right
going
here.
into the E there, and above the E, there's some really prominent ones.
Yeah.
So,
great way of recognizing these. If you do, you're not sure and you look at the coin, is to utilize your loop. If the lines are raised on the surface, then that means that there was recesses in the die, and that means that the die has been polished. If the lines are recessed into coin, then that's different. Then that means that there's been scrubbing on the surface of the coin that's taken metal away. In the case of this, it's really obvious that we have lines that are raised on the surface, which is a indicator of die polishing. I don't know the answer to this. Is again die polishing, because this goes into eye appeal to some extent, and eye appeal is a factor when you get into certainly MS67, MS68 kind of grades. Is there an upper tier for where die polished lines or heavy die polished lines affects the numerical grade?
yes, but the frequency at which you'll encounter a coin where the die polish actually, influences the grade is exceptionally rare.
Okay.
What comes to mind is that like some dates of S Mint peace dollars can have really, really prominent die polish that Some people think it looks cool. I think it makes the coin look awful. And that can certainly be grade restricting. I can't imagine something like this. I don't think there's any California commemoratives out there that have die polish so severe that it actually influences the numerical grade of the coin.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So is it possible? Yes. Is anyone likely to ever actually encounter it? No, I don't think so.
I see. Okay. I'm going to stop the sharing, and I got 3 quick questions for you before we wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So 3 quick questions. What is your best advice to collectors who want to get better at grading for themselves?
Well, I think I kind of demonstrated this with our 5 examples there, is to understand what goes into grading a coin. A lot of people make the assumption that, oh, it's just, how many marks does or doesn't have. And they kind of just roll with that, which can get you in a really bad habit of grading a coin and kind of just counting marks, which is just not how it works. That's part of it. And abrasions are a foundational aspect of grading, but it's not at all the entire thing.
Yeah.
So understanding what goes into coin grading is essential. And second to that, I think it's important to just look at a ton of coins. If you have a friendly local coin shop and they don't mind you browsing frequently, go to the coin shop and look at coins as often as you can.
Yeah.
If one way that I learned a lot was just going on eBay and Heritage and Great Collections and websites like that and just looking at tons and tons of graded coins. Not necessarily looking to buy them or looking at it for some angle with profit, but just to study coins. You can just go on eBay and look up PCGS MS64 piece dollar and look at 100 examples of that. And then plug in PCGS MS65 piece dollar and look at 100 examples of that. And just in the back of your head, kind of think about what differences are you observing from grade to grade. How does the luster look from a grade to grade? Does the strike differ?
Yeah.
At what point do you stop seeing so much unattractive toning? And those are all key components into different attributes of different grades.
Is there any common mistakes with relying too much on photos, grading from photos? Any pitfalls that you think people can run into if you rely too much just on trying to grade a coin from a photo?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. For example, we haven't talked about any proof coins today. So proof coins are coins that are struck with the intention of being sold to collectors. And they have very reflective surfaces, and they're typically not going to be abraded. The most common grade restricting feature of a proof coin is going to be hairlines, and those are imparted from someone gently cleaning the coin with a cloth. And those can be graded. It's not like business strike coins where a hairline equates oftentimes to a no grade. Proofs are kind of the opposite, where you're kind of grade them almost on the presence or lack of hairlines.
Yeah.
So with that said, grading proofs and pictures is just not possible. You might be able to get some idea or suspicion. If it looks really nice, then it's probably a gem coin, a 65 or a 66 or a 67. But if you show me a bad photo of like a proof Franklin half dollar, 1957 Franklin half dollar in proof, you cannot wager a guess out of me because it's just not possible to assess a proof coin, which are graded on an even more nuanced basis than mint state coins.
Yeah.
So I think grading through pictures, I don't know, I'm kind of torn on this because sometimes I'll get really confident in my ability to grade a coin through pictures, and I'll be buying coins off Great Collections or something. And I'll get 10 coins in the mail and I'm like, all right, perfect. They all look exactly like the photos. They look like I thought I would. And then I'll get another batch of coins where I buy 5 coins and 4 of the 5 look nothing like what I thought they did.
Yeah.
So I think it's important I think you can definitely get a good feel for a coin from a photo.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get the whole story. To understand a coin and to give it a well thought out grade, you have to see it in hand. There's no alternative to it.
Yeah. That's one point I wanted to mention because we didn't talk a whole. Well, you mentioned a little bit about the approach with the lighting and bringing the coin up to the light and so forth. But a little tidbit that I picked up at the grading courses was the importance of looking at a coin from multiple angles. So holding a coin, up front, upright in front of you, but then also looking at it, from a side, but also looking at it, let's say with the light coming in kind of at a 90-degree angle, coming in more of a slight angle. So I can kind of see just kind of like what's on the surface of the coin. All of these things you can't do with a photo.
Yeah,
It's impossible to
definitely,
do with a photo. Yeah.
definitely.
So super important stuff to being able to, assess grade and find things and find maybe potential problems, which could be a big determinant in terms of ultimately of final grades. If somebody dreams of becoming a professional grader, it's like yourself, what would you tell them to focus on? If you had a mentor, if you were Steve Feltner to the next Owen Seymour, what would you say?
It's a great question. I think I mentioned it earlier in that I think the numerical evaluation aspect of coin grading kind of gets all the limelight. Um, but authentication is almost becoming a bit of a lost science.
Okay.
I think that the industry takes it so much for granted that you can pay $20 some, send a coin to PCGS, and get a consistently extremely accurate answer on the coin's authenticity.
Yeah.
And people have become so almost like lazy to the fact of authentication that nobody really thinks about it. It would be really sad if someone dedicated years of their life to understanding how to grading, maybe even got good at it, went to apply a PCGS. If you can't authenticate, you're not getting a job.
Yeah.
You cannot become a professional grader without having, a really excellent foundation of authentication ability.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that would be kind of one of my first points is, pay attention to authentication, become fluent at it, study it, buy a lot of different resources, try to memorize diagnostics, what to look for and what you shouldn't see on some coins.
Yeah.
Uh, Two, you just have to expose yourself to a ton of coins.
Yeah.
I think, go to a coin show and if there's a dealer who, you shouldn't bother a dealer who's busy and in the middle of something. But if there's someone who has a spare time or maybe you know them and they're friendly, if they don't mind letting you look at 5 coins for 5 minutes, just look at 5 coins and just spin them around under the lamp and think about what you're seeing. How braided
Yeah.
is it? What's the luster like? Is it pretty to you? And do it at the next table and the next.
Yeah.
Look at raw coins. Look at coins on eBay. Just expose yourself to as many different grades as possible. Becoming
Yeah.
fluent in grading is a matter of understanding authentication, which is a very scientific process, and then you have to become good at grading, right? Which is kind of an artistic process. There's a lot of nuance to it and subjectivity.
Yeah.
And the way that you can't become good at that without looking at a ton of coins, and you kind of have to become able to um, kind of recognize the composite of each grade. What does an average 65 look like? What does an average
Yeah.
64 look like? You
Yeah.
can't grade until you understand those things. And to understand those things, you have to look at millions of coins, and I mean millions.
Yeah.
This isn't a matter of looking at 100 to 200 coins. To become top tier professional, you have to look at millions of coins.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. One thing I just really want to add to that would be the attending of the ANA seminar. I've been to the ANA seminar 3 times, beginning grading. I had it with Kyle and Kyle Knapp, and then also a guy named Mike Ferrone. And was an amazing experience for me. You get to expose yourself to the ANA grading set, which has been used for probably, many years, maybe decades, has been used to teach and inform students about how to grade all different series of U.S. coins and all different levels of the numerical grading scale. But then the relationships you build through it, you spend all 4 days with these people in the classroom together, you have lunch together and dinners together, and you end up building these bonds that you use for the rest of your, that are helpful for the rest of your time in numismatics. And then I did intermediate grading with Steve Feltner and with David McCarthy. And the last guy is, I'm drawing a blank on. He works for Stax Bowers now.
Not sure.
Yeah. I can actually see his Devin Hip.
Oh, Devin Hip, yeah.
Yep, Devin, Steve, and David. Incredible experience. Saw all of these really kind of more high-end coins, interesting coins I'd never got a chance to even handle before up to that point in terms of my time in numismatics. We spent a lot more time in the mint state grades, the nuances between various grades at the mint state level. And then the most recent one that I did with Don Kettling, Ken Park, and then Jeff Garrett, and that was advanced grading and problem coins. And I think if you're serious about this at all, if you're serious about this hobby, if you're certainly if in this business, but if you're serious about the hobby, either way, making your way out to Colorado Springs, taking a course, being instructed from a guy like Owen here for 4 or 5 days, whatever the total number is, it's really, I think it's completely worth it, from an investment perspective and a time perspective, if you can do it. So I would say that. Okay, so people are interested in reaching out, asking some questions, or doing business with you, or whatever. How can people reach you, Owen?
Yeah, so I think I'm best available by email, and so that's Owen at SeymourRareCoins.com. If you're on social media, I'm pretty active on Instagram. My Instagram handle is PA_coins. So you can reach out to me there, send me a message. So yeah, if anybody, if anybody's looking for information or advice on anything, I'd be happy to help.
Awesome. Cool. Well, hey man, thank you so much for doing this. It really means a ton. I'm trying to grow this channel. If folks are out there, watching up to this point, please like, comment, subscribe, share the video, all of those things and so forth. It makes it's a huge help. You can also listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. So in case you enjoy, listening to this while you're driving in the car, you may not see all of the great visuals we had, but you get a chance to listen to us talking about the philosophy here of grading. But again, Owen, anyways, thank you so much for doing this. And I know that everyone out there is going to really enjoy this video quite a bit. So hope to see you at the ANA show and get a chance to catch up some. So thank you so much.
Sounds good. I'll see you there. I really appreciate you having me on, Tony. Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Have a good one. See you.
You too, man. Bye.